and try and find someone who sharpens your iron, because that's the best thing you can do. I always had to realize who was the best player I ever played against, and had to realize I have to go up against him more. Even though I'm going to get beat, even though it's going to look bad sometimes, it's going to happen. So you rather get beat and do all of that behind closed doors than you get to the game and you go to all these camps and you get beat. Like,
welcome back to another episode of Georgeonsports with me, your host George, and joining me today is the main man of the hour, Daniel Akinkunmi, the O-lineman for the NFL Academy, newly signed to the Oklahoma Sooners. Daniel, how are you? And thank you for joining the show.
I'm doing amazing. How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome, man. You're more than welcome. I mean, your name is at the tip of everyone's tongue right now, and for due reason too. Let's talk about your background in the sport, because everybody knows right now you've signed to the Oklahoma Sooners, which is a huge deal, by the way. And again, congratulations to you and your family, because that's a huge, huge deal. But for people who might not know, let's take it all the way back and explain to people how you even got into the sport. What was your first experience with American football?
Yeah, so originally I wanted to be Division I in basketball. That was my main sport before American football. I tried to go through the pathway of just playing here in our secondary school system. Had to realize it was not going to happen, so I decided to try American football because I was always wanted to go Division I. I already knew about college football, the NFL, so I always used to just watch those games on top of watching NBA games. So I think from there I already knew some stuff about the game. So the NFL Academy opened in 2019. I think after I made my decision, I joined my local Baffert team at the time. When I moved to Doncaster, and we were Sheffield Giants. So I played one season for them, posted a bunch of clips of me in the gym, on the field, and I just got recruited by multiple high schools in the States and here. I'm the only child, so I decided to stay close to home. So I decided to go with the academy instead of going to all these big-time high school programs in the US. And ever since then, the academy's changed my life.
So essentially, what you're saying is you actually already had quite a bit of interest before you actually signed with the academy, because I didn't know that. I don't know how many people already know that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I had multiple interests and opportunities to go to the States to play high school ball.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I guess it speaks volumes to. I mean, you're 6'5", or over 300 pounds, and you can play across the O-line in many positions. So I'm not surprised, to be fair. But that's really interesting, because I wasn't aware about that. You mentioned Doncaster. Does that mean you play with the Mustangs?
No, Sheffield Giants, because Mustangs don't have under 19.
Okay. So that's another thing. People don't realize how young you are. And for you to be in this position right now is what I'm sure a lot of people in the academy are going to be looking up to. But let's talk about the academy, because obviously the academy is relatively new. You mentioned it opened in 2019. There are guys who came before you, such as Peter Clark, who's right now at the Temple Owls in Pennsylvania. Freddie Pelling as well, who's out in Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. And of course, Emmanuel Okoye, who's with the Tennessee Volunteers. The academy itself, what's been your experience with the academy? I believe you were there for 2 or 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm going on to my third year, but because I'm leaving in Jan, it's basically 2 years together. Overall experience has been amazing. Like, if it was not for the academy, I don't think I'll be in this position today. They gave me all the tools and everything I needed. Obviously, I came with the talent and the gift of the height and the genetics, but they helped me create the final product of putting in the hard work, creating all these good habits, and now doing what I'm doing now with over 35 plus offers and commit to Oklahoma Sooners. Like, not a lot of kids get to say that, but I think the academy just really helps out. Like, if you buy in 100% and give it your all, you 100% receive some type of benefit.
Firstly, shout out to mum and dad, because you mentioned their genetics. The genetics are absolutely spot on, bro, because again, when I met you in the flesh, it's crazy. There are not many people your age, your size, your height who can move the way you can move and can play across all positions across the offensive line. So shout out to mum and dad for sure. But again, I think it's important to highlight the NFL Academy is no joke. I mean, you mentioned if you buy in, this is what can happen. I mean, I played the game for 11 years. This kind of stuff was not around when I was playing. And these kind of opportunities, they don't come around twice. So for the academy to be able to give guys like yourself and the people that I mentioned before you this opportunity is amazing. And, hopefully it continues to do exactly that. You mentioned 35 offers. Now, for people who just don't quite grasp this 35 offers, This is a big deal, man. This is not. So I want to know, as these offers start to roll in, like you're getting the interest. You mentioned you're posting clips online and showing people what you can do. Number one, people have seen your size and height and they've gone, "Who is this guy? I need to know about this guy." I mean, you said you had offers prior to the academy, so it already speaks volumes. But for you to have 35 offers to come and play ball in the States, with bear in mind, which is what you wanted to do. So you in your mind, you're saying, all right, I've got this offer, and I've got this offer. As they start to roll in, what's your mindset like? How does that work? How are you feeling? How do you keep yourself grounded? And I will say, you're a very young and mature, humble guy. So again, shout out to mum and dad because they've raised you correctly. But how does that work in your mind? What do your emotions feel like for you?
I feel like it also starts with your mum and dad for the upbringing. They taught me very well of to keep my head down, do everything I can, put my mind to everything I want to do in life. So I think that's a very big factor. But I feel like from the beginning, I knew I could be something special at the sport. So I knew all I had to do was to try and find a way to stand out. Like I realized straight off the bat, my first year was something that we're missing is not talent, not size, not the ability to play. It's purely exposure. So I knew I had to create a brand for myself through social media, be able to reach out to these coaches. So when I go to all these camps with the NFL Academy, they already know who I am. And that's half the journey done. All you need to do is come to camps and show up.
Bro, man.
So that's what I did my first year. Got my first 8, 9 offers. It was an amazing feeling. Like Washington State was my first official committable offer. That was amazing. That was at SMU. My first year, my sophomore year. That was absolutely crazy. Like, but I think the biggest one I actually cried was Arkansas. Because obviously big SEC school.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like I cried off the offer. I was over the moon, and I knew from there, if one's gonna invest in me, how many more gonna invest in me down the line? And I was just like, you have to keep on working. Even though I had 8, in my mind is like I had 1. It's like I had 0. Because you always have to think you have nothing. Like I take every single snap on the field or every single day as my loss. I have to have something I've done within the day to know I've improved or bettered my life. So I think just using that as an example really creates a certain mindset of being the best. Like I've always had the mindset in my head, act like a pro before I'm a pro. Like the goal is to be a first round draft pick in a couple years
100%.
time and probably come back and play a London game in London.
Bro, I mean, honestly, those sites are exactly where you need to be setting them. I mean, we've seen what FA went and did with he went on the IPP path and came back and played in London with the Panthers. There's absolutely no reason why you cannot go number 1 overall, because the way you're moving right now, listen, I will not be surprised to see your name up there and for you to come back to the UK and ball out. But you answered the question I was going to ask you about how it felt and how you grounded yourself in terms of, you're having your first camp. You're going out to these places and you're dominating guys. You said you've arrived here and they already know who you are. Half the job is done. I mean, you're speaking like a seasoned pro right now. It's absolutely insane. And what, 19 years old? Is that correct? 19 years old?
18 years
20,
old.
18 years old. And
Yeah.
you're sitting here with, bro, it's honestly, it's a testament to you and your hard work and everything that you put in. But you made a good point about staying grounded and taking each day as it comes, because at the end of the day, people know who you are already. You've done half the work. It's now about improving, focusing, and really locking down and committing to the craft. Talking about committing to the craft, I mean, when you're going out to these camps and you're taking on these other guys from the States and wherever else, and you're dominating, you're putting these guys into the ground. You're sitting guys down. You're making guys look silly. And can I just say, these are guys who have been playing the sport for a lot longer than you have, and you've literally showed up and showed out. Again, back to the mentality, back to the emotion side of things. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel amazing. Like all the hard work, all the nights of me being out there on the field by myself, alone. It just makes me over the moon for it all come to show. Like I knew something. What took a very big part is this game is very repetitive. All you need to do is be an athlete and be able to repeat something over and over again to perfection. So I always train for perfection, what equals improvement. And that's always the best type of improvement, because when you're so specific on the details, you don't miss a thing. And those type of things add up and it gives you one step ahead than everyone else. Like I knew at camps I remember spending months upon months when I knew I was going to go to the camps with the NFL. I was like, let me watch a bunch of camp highlights on social media, see what they do. And I knew pretty much all the time what they did was jump inside. They'll jump inside and they've won the rep. So I knew in camp, I'm going to take a tiny ass step. I'm going to be right in front of them. All they can do is go through me or try and go through the outside of me because I've stopped the inside. So I feel like something like those small details what a lot of people miss out and don't really.
Man, it sounds like you were doing the scouting before the scouting even happened. Like you knew, again, you did your research. You were looking at what these people were doing at camp to the point where you was able to predetermine what was going to happen. Again, you mentioned they'd have to try and go through you. That wasn't going to happen. To try and go around you, that wasn't going to happen either. What were some of the coaches out there saying to you? Because I can imagine they would have been like, all right, this is the real deal. We know who this guy is and we're actually seeing it in the flesh. Did any of them come and speak to you afterwards?
Yeah, so funny thing is, for the majority of every single time I've been to a camp, I'll be moving drill to drill, and all I know is I see 5 or 6 coaches just moving around. But it's an amazing feeling, like,
yeah,
just to know the coaches, I'm coachable. Like, I think the biggest thing I got from coaches and what they were so impressed about is how coachable I am. They'll tell me one thing, next thing you know, for the whole entire camp, I'm doing it. So I think they were very impressed with how coachable I am and how much I've developed in such a short amount of time.
And that's another key point as well, because you might have all the tools, but if you're uncoachable, then what good are you to anyone, right? So not only do you have the tools, the physical ability, the mental ability. I mean, come on, you're already doing research about the guy that camp before you've even got to the camp, and then you're moldable and coachable. You've basically just ticked every single box, and that essentially leads to 35 plus offers. I mean, again, we spoke at the the Tottenham Stadium where you made your announcement to the Sooners. When you have 35 offers, that's a lot to deal with, right? How did you whistle it down to, I think you then whistled it down to 5 before announcing the Sooners. What is it about the Sooners and Oklahoma that really did it for you and eventually led you to signing with them?
Yeah, so as soon as my first year came around, I started to get all these offers. I knew more was going to roll in because I never stopped working, never stopped the grind. So I knew straight off the bat, I need to start eliminating schools and create a list of schools I really want to go, schools I'm not sure about, and schools I'm 100% going to be in my top list. And I just kept on updating as I kept on getting more and more offers. And I feel like that's the best way I kept track of it because I feel like once you have 1 or 2, it's very easy to make decisions. Once you have 35, like, oh my God, this school has that school doesn't have that. And it becomes such a massive thing in your head of thinking, what am I going to do? So I had to make sure I narrowed it early on. And I feel like something what really got me with Oklahoma. Like I've told everyone this in interviews. The first day was very rocky. Like the first day I was thought, I'm not convinced Oklahoma.
Really?
I'm not feeling the vibe. But the
Yeah.
third day, what really made up for it. Like the second day when I watched my first ever college game, to see the team how much they improved, to see all the coaches coach, especially Coach Beanabo, who's going to be my coach when I go over there, how much the team has improved by under Coach Venables was absolutely amazing. And then after that, me and Coach Beanabo, the O-line coach, actually went to go and watch film. We watched the whole game afterwards.
Really?
And to see him analyze film within the detail he did was incredible. I was like, I love a coach like this. He's just watching film more, never seen every single tiny detail, and he's getting mad at it. Like, that's something I do. But to have someone who's even more experienced and who's done it for years just shows how much I could be better and how much he can improve me. So that was another big reason. And then another big reason was the third day when I went to Coach Venable's house, Coach Schaefer, who's the defensive end coach, said a story about how his wife, who was born and bred from Clemson, who lived in Clemson, when they were moving and Coach Venable asked him to come for the job at Oklahoma, the wife said yes straight away because he knew how much he helped him as a player when Coach Venables was at Clemson as a coach. To hear a wife say that or say the story to me is crazy. I've never heard anything like that. Normally you have the story of, I got called up for the job, I said yes straight away. You never have a story like that. Like me and that boy, who was another highly ranked recruit on the visit, was just amazed. Like that's something you don't hear every single time on a visit. That's something very real.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a connection there. Maybe not on the first day, but on the second day, where you're with coach, a very personable coach, by the way, it sounds like, and obviously has the same kind of expectations that you have, where you're watching film and you're thinking, damn, like he's picking up on this, he's picking up on that. But Daniel, before I let you go, because I know you're a busy man and you're in high demand, being ranked number one in Europe, that holds a lot of weight. I mean, I spoke to Kofi, who's at Colorado. I mentioned it earlier, Peter, Clark, Freddie, and some of those guys were also ranked as number one. What does that feel like to know that all these colleges are watching you, all these coaches are watching you, and all of these teams, they want you a part of their program to the point where you are ranked number one in Europe? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel amazing. Like, just to go out there and do my thing, it just shows what a UK guy can do. Anyone in
Mm-hmm.
Europe can do, to be honest. I've always said this, I'm not going to be the first. There's going to be many more who's going to be highly ranked. He probably has 40, 50 offers. Like, this highly ranked out of all the guys who come out, but you never know. There could be someone who's next coming out who gets 60 offers. Like, that's always the goal, and that's always been my thing of trying to spread the game across everywhere. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've always said the best players are players who don't have the opportunities to play. Like,
Fact.
guys in Africa, guys like first world countries always have some type of opportunities, but when you go into third world countries, they don't really have these opportunities. And I feel like a very big pipeline, what I've always been talking to OC about, is Nigeria. Like, Nigeria is a very big
Bro,
pipeline.
you know, man, there are giants walking around left, right, and center, left, right, and center. But Daniel, before I let you go, obviously you've come from the academy. You're still with the academy currently, but you will be leaving to join the Oklahoma Sooners. Again, it just sounds crazy just even saying that. But for the people who are obviously looking up to you, you've laid out a blueprint. What words of advice are you giving to people, or would you give to the people currently in the academy who are looking up to yourself, to Peter, to Kofi, to Emmanuel, who want to make that jump? What piece of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so the piece of advice I'll give to anyone who's coming to join the academy, who's in the academy right now, would be buy in. Try and do everything you can, because I feel like once you do that, there's no excuses. Like, you need to go in every single day and be like, I've gave it my all. I didn't do things half-heartedly. I gave it everything I got in the tank, so you get better the next day and the next day. And be coachable. Listen, learn, and try and find someone who sharpens your iron, because that's the best thing you can do. I always had to realize who was the best player I ever played against, and had to realize I have to go up against him more. Even though I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
beat, even though it's going to look bad sometimes, it's going to happen. So you rather get beat and do all of that behind closed doors than you get to the game and you go to all these camps and you get beat. Like, always work on your weaknesses. I think that's something a lot of people are scared to say and honestly think about. Weaknesses is something you really need to work on.
Well, guys, you've heard from the main man, Daniel Akinkunmi here, who has signed with the Oklahoma Sooners. It's a huge deal for Daniel, for his family, but also for the UK as well, putting the UK on the map. Daniel, thank you for joining the show. Wish you all the best. When are you flying out to Oklahoma?
So I have an All-American game on the 28th, so I'm getting flown out for that in Orlando, Florida first. Then from the All-American game, after the 3rd of Jan, the next day, I'll be flying to Oklahoma.
Wow,
So
crazy stuff. All right. Guys, Daniel here, NFL Academy vet. I'm going to call you a vet now because that is exactly what you are right now. Joining the Oklahoma Sooners. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I've been George from George on Sports, and stay tuned for more.